John Miller took a deep breath as he walked toward the center of the grand chamber. His footsteps echoed in the sudden quiet. 500 pairs of eyes watched him. Not all were human eyes. Most belonged to aliens from 37 different worlds. The Galactic Council chamber was huge, its ceiling arched high above, covered in symbols from 100 ancient languages. The walls glowed with a soft blue light. In the center stood a round platform where speakers addressed the council. Miller's plain black suit stood out among the colorful robes and natural coverings of the alien representatives. Humans had only joined these meetings 5 years ago. They were still new to the council, still figuring out the rules. "You may address the council, Ambassador Miller," said Elder Sarakel, her 7 eyes blinking one after another. She belonged to the arachnid species that had helped found the council thousands of years ago. Miller nodded and placed his hands on the smooth surface of the podium. A small light turned green, showing that translation systems were working. Every being in the room would hear his words in their own language. "Distinguished representatives of the Galactic Council," he began, his voice steady despite the tension he felt. "On behalf of Earth and her colonies, I regretfully announce that humanity is declaring a state of war." The silence lasted exactly 3 seconds. Then, the chamber erupted. War. The word echoed from 100 voices and translation devices. Some aliens stood up. Others changed colors in shock or anger. A few made high-pitched sounds of distress. The Xilarian representative, Ambassador Vex, rose from his seat. His translucent skin glowed bright orange with emotion. "This is outrageous. Who do humans think they are? The Council has maintained peace for 3,000 years. From another section, the Voltraxian delegation began making threatening gestures. Sanctions must be applied immediately. Humans cannot be trusted. Miller stood still as Council security officers moved to surround the human delegation. Their weapons weren't drawn, but their posture made it clear they were ready for trouble. Elder Tsarakel raised her 4 upper limbs, calling for quiet. The chamber gradually settled, though angry murmurs continued. "Ambassador Miller," she said, her voice carrying easily through the room, "you must explain yourself immediately. The Galactic Council does not recognize declarations of war. We resolve conflicts through diplomacy. Always." The elder's 7 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of extreme distress among her kind. Who exactly are humans declaring war against? Miller looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes and eye equivalents of many representatives. He noticed fear, anger, and confusion. But he also saw something else in some faces: guilt. "Not against any council member, Elder," Miller said calmly. "Humanity declares war against the Vraxan horde approaching from the Sagittarius arm." A different kind of silence fell over the chamber. This wasn't angry silence. It was the silence of shock. "An enemy you've been aware of for decades," Miller continued, "but have chosen to ignore." Ambassador Krell of the Meridian Collective stood up. His crystalline body structure caught the light as he moved. "The Vraxan situation is a diplomatic matter. We have treaties." "Treaties?" Miller interrupted. "While you've been signing treaties, the Vraxan have consumed 3 civilizations in the last decade alone. Their scout ships are already infiltrating Council space." He touched a control on the podium. Holographic images appeared above the chamber, showing strange organic-looking ships moving through star systems near Council borders. "This footage was captured by human scout ships last month," Miller said. "The Vraxan aren't interested in your treaties. They're preparing for invasion." Elder Sarakel's limbs trembled slightly. "These are serious accusations, Ambassador." "They are facts, Elder," Miller replied. "And humanity will no longer stand by while the Council pretends not to see what's coming. We didn't join this community to watch it fall." The chamber remained quiet now, but the tension had changed. It wasn't anger anymore. It was fear. "The Vraxan are coming," Miller said simply. "Humanity chooses to fight. The Council must decide where it stands." 2 days after Ambassador Miller's announcement, the Galactic Council called an emergency meeting. Susan Walsh stood at the center of the chamber now. As the head of Earth Intelligence's Xenobiology Division, she had studied the Vraxen for years. Susan wore her navy blue uniform with 3 silver stars on each shoulder. Her red hair was pulled back in a tight bun. She looked small standing where giant alien representatives usually stood. "Thank you for allowing me to present our findings," she began. She touched a control on her wrist device. Immediately, the air above the chamber filled with images. The council members stared at the holographic display. It showed strange ships that looked partly mechanical and partly alive. The ships had odd bulges and what seemed like veins running across their surfaces. "These are Vraxen scout vessels," Susan explained. "We've tracked them entering council space repeatedly over the past 3 years." The images changed to show various planets. Some were green and blue like Earth. Others were red or purple with strange cloud patterns. Then the images showed the same planets later, all gray, lifeless, with deep scars across their surfaces. "This is what happens to worlds the Vraxen visit," Susan said. "They consume all organic matter. Plants, animals, people, everything living is eaten." Several council members made sounds of distress. The Florian representative, whose body was plant-based, turned a pale yellow color. "But that is not the worst part," Susan continued. She showed new images, close-ups of the Vraxen themselves. They looked like large insects mixed with reptiles. Their bodies seemed to change from image to image. The Vraxen can absorb genetic material from species they consume. They adapt and evolve with each world they devour. They take the best traits from each species and add them to their own. General Krintor, the council's military advisor, stood up. His metallic scales reflected the light as he moved. "Lieutenant Walsh, the council has records of Vraxen encounters going back centuries. We have maintained peace through the Treaty of Aldebaran for 900 years. Susan nodded. "Yes, General. I've studied those records. Your treaty involved giving the Vraxen access to uninhabited worlds at the edge of council space." "Exactly," Krintor said. "Containment has worked. The Vraxen understand boundaries." Susan touched her wrist device again. New images appeared, showing Vraxen ships gathering in huge numbers. "The Vraxen understand only hunger," she said. "Each world you've given them has made them stronger. Each species they've consumed on those supposedly uninhabited planets has added to their abilities." She showed intercepted Vraxen communications, strange symbols and patterns that pulsed with light. "Our linguists have been working to decode their language. These messages were sent 3 months ago. They discuss plans for what they call the Great Consumption, a full invasion of council space." Elder Tsarakel's 7 eyes all focused on Susan. "If this is true, why has humanity chosen to act now? Why declare war when you could have shared this information through diplomatic channels?" Ambassador Miller stepped forward to stand beside Susan. "We tried, Elder. For 2 years, we sent reports to the council. They were filed away or ignored." He looked around the chamber. "We joined the council hoping to find friends among the stars. Instead, we found a community that would rather pretend a threat doesn't exist than face it directly." Miller pointed at the images of ravaged planets. "On Earth, we have a saying: the only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. Humanity did not join the council to do nothing." Susan brought up one final image, a map of council space with red dots showing Vraxen positions. "According to our projections, the first attack will come within 60 days. It will target the Proxima sector." General Krintor snorted. "Impossible. Our defenses there are minimal. If they were planning an attack, they would choose a more valuable target." Susan shook her head. "They don't think like you do, General. They don't want your technology or your resources. They want your biology, your people." Miller stepped forward again. "Humanity didn't join the council to watch it fall. We joined to save it, even if it doesn't want to be saved." Commander Richard Garcia walked slowly through the corridors of the U.S. Defiance, Earth's newest battleship. Behind him followed 6 alien military leaders from different council species. They had come to see human war technology for themselves. "This way, please," Garcia said, leading them into a large room filled with screens and control panels. "This is our tactical center, where we plan and direct combat operations." Admiral Zexkeller of the Palaxian fleet stared at the weapons display. He was tall and thin with blue skin that seemed to ripple with emotions. Right now, it showed both fear and interest. "Your weapons are designed to cause maximum damage," Zexkeller said. "Most Council defense systems focus on disabling enemy ships, not destroying them." Garcia nodded. "Different approaches to the same problem. You try to stop an attack without harming the attacker. We believe that sometimes the only way to end a threat is to remove it completely." "Your species evolved as pursuit predators," Zexkeller observed, looking around at the other human crew members working in the room. "It explains your disturbing focus on weapons that cause so much harm." Garcia shook his head. "Not to cause harm, Admiral. To end threats permanently. We fight to win, not to maintain stalemates." He touched a control panel, and a large map appeared on the main screen. It showed Council space, with red marks indicating known Vraxon positions. "Here's our battle plan," Garcia explained. "Instead of waiting for the Vraxon to attack and then trying to push them back, we propose striking first at their staging areas and supply lines." The alien visitors looked shocked. General Thrix of the Zenturian Defense Force clicked his mandibles together in disapproval. "Preemptive strikes are forbidden by Council law," Thrix said. "We have maintained peace for thousands of years by following defensive protocols only." A woman walked into the room. "And how has that worked with the Vraxon?" she asked. Garcia introduced her. "This is Dr. Laura Bennett, our top xenopsychologist. She has studied Vraxon behavior patterns extensively." Laura stepped up to the display and changed the image. Now it showed a timeline of Council interactions with the Vraxon, with territory lost marked in red. The red area grew larger with each passing century. "The Vraxon interpret your diplomatic gestures as weakness," Laura explained. "Each time you give them a system to maintain peace, they see it as submission. They respect only force and territorial dominance. Your concessions weren't preventing war. They were guaranteeing it." One of the alien officers, a crystalline being named Lithvar, moved forward. "Humans have never faced the Vraxon in battle. What makes you think your aggressive approach will work when our careful diplomacy has kept peace for centuries?" Before Garcia could answer, an alarm sounded. The tactical screen changed to show live feed from a distant star system. Everyone watched as strange organic-looking ships surrounded a small outpost on the edge of Council space. The outpost was in the Proxima sector, exactly where Susan Walsh had predicted the first attack would come. The alien ships fired some kind of green energy that melted through the outpost's shields. Then they attached themselves to the station like parasites. Within minutes, the outpost's lights went dark. 53 Council citizens were on that outpost, Garcia said quietly, mostly scientists and their families. The alien military leaders stood in silence. For some, their color changed. Others made small sounds of distress or anger. "This is just the beginning," Garcia continued. "The Vraxon won't stop until they've consumed everything in their path. Each victory makes them stronger as they absorb new genetic material." He looked at each of the alien leaders. "Humanity doesn't want this war, but we recognize it's already here, whether the Council admits it or not." Admiral Zexkeller's skin had turned dark blue, a sign of deep concern among his people. "Perhaps," he said slowly, "it is time for the Council to learn new approaches." Garcia nodded. "We can help each other, your technology combined with our tactical experience. But first, the Council needs to accept an uncomfortable truth. Sometimes peace requires fighting for it." The full Galactic Council met in their grand chamber once again. The attack on the Proxima outpost had changed things. Now every seat was filled. The mood was no longer angry but worried. Some species that rarely attended council sessions had sent their highest leaders. Ambassador Patricia Rodriguez took her place at the speaking platform. She replaced John Miller, who was meeting with Earth's military leaders. Patricia wore a simple gray suit. Her dark hair was cut short, and her expression was serious. The Vraxen have destroyed 3 more outposts since the attack on Proxima, she began. Each time, they take the same approach. They surround the target, disable its defenses, and then absorb all organic material. Nothing is left behind. The chamber was quiet. Even those who had been most opposed to human interference were listening now. Humanity will defend Council space with or without your permission, Patricia continued. But we fight more effectively as allies than alone. The Council chamber split into 2 sides. Some species supported working with humans. Others still favored their traditional approach of giving up outer territories to keep the Vraxen away from core worlds. Elder Vintar of the Turanian delegation rose to speak. The Turanians were the oldest council members. They had helped write the peace treaties that had guided the council for thousands of years. Humans are newcomers, Vintar said, his voice deep and slow. They do not understand our ways. The Vraxen can be contained. We must offer them the outer systems and strengthen our borders. Many council members nodded in agreement. This was the way it had always been done. Then a different alien stood up. It was Selmara of the Meridian Collective. The Meridians were hive minds, with thousands of connected bodies sharing one consciousness. They rarely spoke in council. We have studied human predictions, Selmara said. Their data matches patterns we have observed for centuries. The Vraxen grow stronger with each system they take. Containment is failing. The debate grew more heated. Some demanded immediate military action. Others called for more diplomacy. Ven Schiller, the council historian, stepped to the center of the chamber. He was small and very old, with skin like ancient paper. 3 civilizations in our recorded history followed aggressive policies like those humans propose, he said. All 3 were destroyed in the conflicts that followed. Patricia stepped forward again. And how many civilizations were consumed by the Vraxen while you watched? Did you even count them as they disappeared? The council chamber fell silent. A new figure entered the chamber. It was Admiral William Porter from Earth. He walked with a limp, and his face showed the scars of old battles. He carried a small device in his hand. While we debate, they feed, Porter said, his voice rough. He activated the device, and images appeared in the air. The images showed a small human colony world. Green fields, blue oceans, white clouds. Then the images changed to show the same planet being surrounded by Vraxen ships. The next images showed a gray, lifeless world with deep wounds across its surface. This was Epsilon 9, one of our outer colonies, Porter said. Population of 12,000. They were mostly farmers and researchers. The Vraxen took them 3 days ago. He looked around the chamber. Humanity has already paid in blood. How much will you sacrifice before you stand your ground? The elder Tsarakil moved to the center of the chamber. All 7 of her eyes focused on Porter. What do you propose, Admiral? She asked. A joint task force, Porter replied. Human ships and soldiers fighting alongside Council forces. We target Vraxen staging areas first, then push into their territory. Attack them directly, gasped one of the Council members. That violates every principle of our defense doctrine. Porter nodded. Yes, and that's exactly why it will work. The Vraxen expect you to retreat and concede territory. They don't expect you to fight back. Elder Tsarakil was quiet for a long moment. Then she raised her 4 upper limbs in a formal gesture. The Council will vote, she announced. For the first time in 3,000 years, we will vote on whether to authorize offensive military action. Captain Frank Warren stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, Earth's newest carrier ship. Through the main viewport, he could see hundreds of ships gathered. Some were human vessels, sleek and angular with powerful weapons. Others were Council ships, more rounded, with shimmering energy fields and strange designs. This was Operation Vanguard. the first joint attack against the Vraxen. The Council had voted to fight, though many members had done so reluctantly. "All ships report ready, Captain," said Lieutenant Eric Johnson from the communications station. Warren nodded. At 45, he had fought in Earth's colony wars and knew the cost of battle. His gray eyes scanned the tactical displays, checking every detail one last time. "Send the go signal," he ordered. "All ships jump on my mark." The fleet commanders acknowledged. Even the Council ships, which had never launched an offensive operation before, were following human battle plans. 3, 2, 1, mark, Warren said. Space rippled as hundreds of ships activated their jump drives at once. The stars blurred, and then they were there, at the edge of the Vraxen staging area in the Orion sector. The Vraxen weren't expecting them. Their bioships drifted in loose formations, unprepared for battle. Warren had only seconds to act before they organized. "All ships, execute attack pattern Delta," he ordered. "Focus fire on the command vessels." Human ships surged forward, weapons blazing. Council ships followed, though more cautiously. The Vraxen began to respond, their strange organic ships turning to face the attack. On the secondary command deck, Admiral Kalax of the Council's Unified Space Command watched with horror and fascination. He had never seen such aggressive tactics. "Your ships are taking heavy damage," Kalax said to Warren through the comm system. "They should pull back and regroup." "Negative," Warren replied. "We press the advantage while they're still confused." On the communications station, Officer Heather Lewis was listening to Vraxen transmissions. The strange sounds and patterns had been partly decoded by Earth intelligence. "Captain," she called out, "I'm picking up Vraxen communications. They're confused by our attack. The translation is rough, but they're asking why we're attacking instead of retreating." Warren smiled grimly. "They expected the Council to give up more territory. They don't understand why we're fighting back." He turned to his tactical officer. "That's our advantage. Press it." The battle unfolded across 3 star systems simultaneously. Human ships took heavy casualties, but inflicted unprecedented damage on Vraxen forces. For every human ship lost, 3 Vraxen vessels were destroyed. Admiral Kalax watched as a human cruiser deliberately rammed a Vraxen ship after its weapons were disabled. The sacrifice allowed 3 other ships to break through the Vraxen line. "Your species fights like cornered predators," Kalax observed from the secondary command center. "No," Warren replied, watching as human Marines boarded a crippled Vraxen vessel. "We fight like hunters who found their prey." On the damaged Vraxen ship, Sergeant Alice Cooper led her team through strange organic corridors. The walls pulsed as if alive. The air smelled like rotten meat. "Stay alert," Alice told her squad. "We need to reach the central chamber." They fought their way through the ship, facing Vraxen defenders. The aliens looked like a nightmare mix of insect and reptile. Each one seemed slightly different, as if parts from other species had been added to their bodies. Finally, they'd reached the central chamber. Inside, they found something unexpected, not a control room, but a vast organic computer. It pulsed with light and strange fluids. "Secure the area," Alice ordered. She approached the pulsing mass carefully. Her scanner showed it was processing huge amounts of data. She connected a secure line to the Indomitable. "Captain Warren, we found something. It's not just a ship. It looks like they're mapping the entire galaxy. They're identifying all life-bearing worlds." Back on the bridge, Warren received the transmission. "Can you download their data?" "Affirmative," Alice replied. "But sir, this isn't just an invasion force. Based on what we're seeing, this is an extinction plan. They intend to consume all life in the galaxy." Warren's face hardened. He turned to Admiral Kalax. "Now do you understand why humanity declared war? This isn't about territory. It's about survival." For once, the alien admiral had no argument to offer. 6 months had passed since the first battle. The joint Human Council fleet had pushed the Vraxen back to their staging areas. Many ships had been lost. Many good people had died, but for the first time, the Vraxen were retreating. Dr. Kevin Mitchell worked in his lab aboard the research vessel Curiosity. The ship followed behind the main fleet, studying captured Vraxen technology. Kevin had dark circles under his eyes. He hadn't slept much in days. Around him worked scientists from 7 different species. Together they formed the Joint Research Team. Their job was to find the Vraxen's weakness. "Look at this again," Kevin said, pointing to a display showing the inner workings of a Vraxen ship. "Every bioship has this same structure. It must be important." Zilnara, a scientist with 6 tentacle-like arms, moved closer to the display. "It resembles a communication node, but much more complex than ours." Kevin nodded. "I think that's exactly what it is. The Vraxen aren't individuals like us. They're all connected, sharing information instantly." He touched controls on his tablet, and the display changed to show brain scans of captured Vraxen. "See these patterns? Their brains are always active in the same areas, even when they're separated from each other. They're receiving constant signals." He worked quickly, bringing up more data. "And look, all these signals use the same frequency range." Zilnara's color changed to bright yellow, a sign of excitement among her kind. "If they all communicate on the same frequency, we could disrupt it," Kevin finished. "Cut them off from each other." Within hours, Kevin presented their findings to the Joint Command on the flagship Determination. Military leaders from Earth and 12 Council species listened carefully. "The Vraxen share a neural network," Kevin explained. "It gives them tremendous advantages. They can coordinate perfectly, but it's also a weakness." He showed designs for a new device. "This is a neural disruptor. It broadcasts on the exact frequency the Vraxen use. It creates interference in their network." Admiral Porter leaned forward. "What would this do to them?" "In our tests with captured specimens, it caused immediate confusion," Kevin said. "They couldn't coordinate. Some became completely non-responsive." Chief Engineer Olivia Wright spoke up. "I can build these devices, but there's a problem. They have limited range. We'd need to place them deep in Vraxen territory to affect their main forces." The room grew quiet. Placing disruptors behind enemy lines seemed impossible. Then Commander Samuel Ross stood up. He was young for his rank, only 32, but had proven himself in many battles. "My stealth ships could deliver the disruptors," he said. "We can slip past their outer defenses." Kex 4, the Zenturian tactician, clicked his mandibles in disagreement. "Suicide mission. The Vraxen would detect you before you reached the target points." Ross shook his head. "High-risk operation with acceptable casualties, given the stakes." Ambassador Miller joined the meeting through a video link. His arm was in a sling from injuries in a recent attack. "This is why humanity declared war," Miller said to the gathered leaders. "Not because we love fighting, but because we understand its necessity. Some threats cannot be contained. They must be eliminated." He looked tired but determined. "If Commander Ross believes his teams can place the disruptors, I trust his judgment." The council representatives exchanged glances. For thousands of years, their policy had been to contain threats, never to eliminate them. This approach was foreign to them. Elder Tsarakel spoke for the council. "To destroy an enemy completely. This has never been our way." "With respect, Elder," Ross said, "the Vraxen have given us no choice. They will not stop until they've consumed every living thing in the galaxy, including all of us." The room was silent as everyone considered the stakes. Finally, Elder Tsarakel raised her 4 upper limbs in the formal gesture of council authority. The council votes to approve the mission. It was the first time in 3,000 years that the Galactic Council had authorized an operation designed to destroy an enemy rather than contain it. Ross nodded to his team. "We launch in 6 hours. Let's make them count." 1 year after Ambassador Miller's shocking announcement to the Council, the war with the Vraxen was over. The neural disruptors had worked. When Commander Ross and his teams placed the devices in key Vraxen systems, the effect was immediate. The Vraxan fleet fell into chaos. Without their shared neural network, they couldn't coordinate. Many Vraxan ships turned on each other in confusion. The remaining Vraxan forces retreated to the edges of the galaxy. They were no longer a united threat, just scattered groups trying to survive. The victory had come at a high cost. 1 in 3 human soldiers and sailors had not returned home. Council species had suffered heavy losses too. But the galaxy was safe. On the Council homeworld of Arcturus Prime, a great ceremony was being held. The chamber was filled with representatives from all Council species. At the center stood Ambassador Nicole Carter. She had replaced John Miller, who was still recovering from severe injuries. Nicole was tall with dark skin and short black hair. Her blue diplomatic uniform was decorated with the new Galactic Defense Medal. Representatives of the Galactic Council, she began, her voice clear and strong. 1 year ago, humanity declared war. Today, we declare peace. The chamber erupted in applause. Even those who had opposed human methods now recognized the victory they had achieved together. Humanity didn't come to the stars seeking war, Nicole continued when the noise died down. We came looking for friends, knowledge, and peaceful coexistence. But we brought with us the understanding that peace must sometimes be defended with force. Elder Sarakel approached the center of the chamber. All 7 of her eyes looked clear and bright, a sign of happiness among her kind. For thousands of years, Sarakel said, the Council believed that preserving life at any cost was our highest duty. We avoided conflict, even when it meant giving up territory and abandoning outer worlds to threats like the Vraxan. She turned to face Nicole. Humans taught us that some principles are worth fighting for, and that survival without freedom is not truly living. The Council voted unanimously to create a new defensive alliance. Humans would take lead roles in military planning and threat assessment. Council scientists would work with human researchers to adapt Vraxan biotechnology for peaceful uses, turning tools of destruction toward healing and exploration. As the ceremony ended, Nicole and Sarakel moved to the center of the great plaza outside the Council chamber. There stood a new monument, a tall pillar of shimmering crystal with a flame burning at its top. This monument honors all who were lost in the conflict, Sarakel explained to the gathered crowd, both human and Council lives. The monument bore an inscription in all Council languages. Nicole read the human version aloud. They did not seek war, but when it came, they did not flinch. May we honor their sacrifice by building the peace they died to secure. Later that day, in Earth's orbital headquarters above Arcturus Prime, General Daniel Clark reviewed reports of remaining Vraxan activity. The threat was contained, but some Vraxan groups still existed in distant parts of the galaxy. Beside him stood Solarian Admiral Voxtier, studying human history texts on a tablet. Your species has fought so many wars, Voxtier observed, yet you still value peace. We value peace precisely because we understand war, Clark replied. That's the paradox your people are just beginning to grasp. Through the viewport, they could see construction beginning on a new type of ship. It wasn't a warship but an exploration vessel, built with combined human and Council technology. Where will those ships go? Asked Voxtier. Clark smiled. Beyond known space, looking for new civilizations to join our alliance. And if they find threats instead? The Admiral asked. Then we'll face them together, Clark said. That's the lesson of this war. Standing alone, any of us could fall. Standing together, we can face whatever the galaxy throws at us. As darkness fell over Arcturus Prime, lights came on across the vast Council city. For the first time in recorded history, no one in the galaxy feared the coming of night.